leading things off. We have to wait for 16 teams to go in front of us before we make our pick, but I'm looking forward to it.
Different is your draft board when last year you're number one, you kind of know your guy, and this year it really depends on who else is picked first, maybe.
Yeah, definitely have to cast a wider net. Last year I would say when we pick at the top of the draft, you're typically looking anywhere from 6 to 10 guys. This year we're really looking closely more towards 2022, just because of the fact that we have to have some dominoes fall before us. We pick before we pick.
What are your overall thoughts just on this year's draft class?
Yeah, it's a very deep draft. I would say in terms of the composition, a lot of folks saw what the power arms did in Omaha, whether it's Hurston Waldrop, Paul Skeens, Rhett Lauder. There's a lot to like on that front. The college hitting core is very good as well. I know that's obviously been our flavor the last few years here. And then the high school infielder demographic is very good. A lot of very polished high school hitters in terms of plate discipline, thing that we also like about that crop.
Since you've never taken a pitcher in the first or second round, would you really consider taking a pitcher in the first round?
Yeah, I think we always keep our mind open. Obviously, as you said, you guys kind of have a scouting report in terms of what we look for in terms of our first round selection, but there are some pretty intriguing arms. There's a few college arms. There's also a couple high school arms that have our attention. But to your point, we typically do lean the college demographic, but we are open to all possible scenarios in this case.
Brad, to that point, how do you feel like you guys have done in terms of drafting pitching to this point with those later middle round guys? How do you feel like you guys have done in the last 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that there's always room for improvement, but so far there has been a lot of positives in terms of the guys that we have taken. I think Justin Armbruster is a really excellent case of that. He's at AAA, had a great outing last night. There's other guys that have done well as well down below. So we're going to continue to hone in on that, whether it's round 2 all the way through round 20.
You've seen what Jackson Holliday's been able to do, and maybe he's a bit of a unicorn type player, but does that kind of give you a little bit more confidence in an early high school hitter going that direction?
Yeah, each player is obviously different. Between the years, the mental makeup is different. I think, as you described, Jackson is a little bit of a unicorn. If we do go the high school bat route, I'm not going to put any additional pressure on that player and put him on the same timeline or trek as Jackson, but hopefully the overlying theme here for us is take whatever we take. We want that player to obviously, feel comfortable with what we're having them do in terms of development, and also see if we can continue to have them ascend quickly through the ranks all the way up, to the big leagues so they can help out here.
Brad, having the number one farm and having so many top 100 prospects at higher levels, does that impact either what you do at the top of the draft or throughout the draft this year?
I think that, if you were to look at this in a vacuum, it's something that you kind of have in the back of your mind. But bottom line is we want the best player regardless of the situation, regardless of what the 40-man roster might look like a couple years from now. But to your point, Steve, it is kind of in the back of your mind. There is a little bit of I don't want to say a bottleneck, but there's a lot of qualified guys up at AAA and AA that, a lot of clubs, that are looking at our system would love to have in their system.
What's the preparation for day one compared to the following 2 days of the draft?
Yeah, I would say that obviously it's a little bit of a slower pace. You got the network going on, you have the television, the ratings, the fans are tuning in, so it's a little bit slower pace. And then for days 2 and 3, obviously you have to be a little bit more on your feet. Things pick up a little more quickly, and that's kind of where we get our entire staff involved, whether it's our analysts working with our scouts to make sure that we're in touch with advisors, players, family members, friends. So I would just say the overall pace picks up in days 2 and 3 a lot more than day 1.
Brad, how confident are you guys in your ability to still get a really quality player at that 17 spot?
I think I don't want to say we're overly confident, but we're confident. We believe in our process. It's worked so far, knock on wood, obviously, and as I always say, just put your best foot forward, do your homework, do your due diligence on all fronts. You just do the best you can, take the player, and ultimately it's up to them and how quickly they ascend through the ranks.
Of those, you said, there might be 22 players or so that you're looking at. How many of those have you seen in person yourself?
I've seen all of them. Yeah.
Multiple times?
Yes, sir. Yep.
How does obviously when you pick lower in the draft, the money side of things change? How does that change how you guys operate, if at all?
Yeah, I think it's always kind of interesting as far as looking around what clubs do with their bonus pool. Some teams kind of will look to potentially try to save money up at the top and try to push those savings down. I've always kind of taken the approach that we want the best player, the best fit for our organization, and if there are savings to be had, that's just kind of an extra bonus. So the first and foremost thing we're going to do is find the best guy who's the best fit for our organization, and then obviously we'll take a look at what happens from there and if we're going to, implement another strategy as far as pushing some money to other selections.
I'm curious, what's your philosophy on how much weight do you put on analytics compared to the traditional scouting report and just kind of the eye test? So
Sure. I think it's no secret that the framework of our entire organization is quantitatively driven. So I would say that in terms of how we approach things on the scouting side, I like to say that I have a GPS, so to speak, of guys that our analytics department really like, and I kind of push our scouts towards those guys. On the flip side, I think we do a tremendous job of weighting not only quantitative data, but also qualitative data, whether that's makeup, feedback, just talking to the players. We went out to the Combine, a few days ago and met with around 50 players, kind of see how they would fit for us in terms of a culture fit. So I guess to circle back on your question is we are still very quantitatively driven, and that is a big proponent in terms of how we do things, but we don't ignore the qualitative side of things as well.
What do you think of the Combine?
I love it. I think that initially there might have been some skepticism industry-wide, but I think the folks at the commissioner's office have done a great job, and it's actually one of my favorite events. I get a lot out of it. I enjoy watching the action on the field, but we get a ton of value out of the medical portion, but also sitting down and talking to the players. I mean, I think it's been documented, it's been talked about. The guys we're bringing in the organization, we want high-quality guys that are going to push each other, and that is a big part of our process, getting to know them and pick their brains and see how they process information between the years in addition with their ability on the field.
What do you think about Waltrip? What do you like about him? And is there some extra weight put on guys who finish strong or pitch well in particularly big games?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this the other day. It's kind of hard to ignore when guys perform on a big national stage like in Omaha. So that is always on the back of your mind. I think if you look what happened last year with Cade Horton out of Oklahoma, made himself a top 10 selection based upon how he pitched on the stretch. With that said, I think that we always try to take the entire body of work into account. Ultimately, how they start just as well as how they finish. Waldrop is a unique talent. It's fun to watch him. He's got 4 pitches. His secondaries are lethal. He's got the split that he's got a remarkable feel for. 2 breaking balls that he will double and triple up with, and he's got a fastball that sits 95 to 98. So he is a very intriguing starting pitching prospect, and we'll definitely be discussing him and some other guys as well. So we're curious to see where he goes.
How unique has it been to look at the college ranks the past 2-3 years and seeing pitch counts rise, pitch velocity especially rise, especially down the stretch in Omaha where guys, starting pitchers go out there and pitch a lot, high quality.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the one thing that we've done remarkably well here is we bring our player development folks into the fold. We work directly with our pitching coordinators, Mitch Plasmeyer, Adam Schock, Forrest Herman, who's one of our development coaches in the affiliates, and we go through each and every guy. We talk about their delivery, we look at their arsenal, we talk about risk factors, whether it's inning counts or if there's other things that we can kind of look for and hone in on. So, but to your point, it is a very difficult thing to peg and assess, but we've gotten a lot better at it, and hopefully we'll see the results of that as guys that we bring through the system, and hopefully they stay healthy and can ascend quickly.
When you guys selected Kalser, some people criticized it because he wasn't from a big-time SEC school, and yet it's worked out pretty well for him to date. Is that draft models, you think, that is helping you do that, or are there other factors that make you watch him per an SEC big guy and say he's as good?
No, I think a lot of credit obviously goes to the folks that run our analytics department. That was a point, we had that conversation about, the competition levels, and they do a good job factoring that in. The one thing I will say about Colton is his track record with Team USA, playing against that competition and those guys. So we felt really comfortable, at that selection at pick 5, and I mean, I'm ecstatic as far as how his career has gone thus far, and really looking forward to see what he can do down the stretch here.
How pleased are you overall with kind of how these new processes have worked out?
Very pleased. Clearly you don't want to get too far ahead of it. You're always still kind of looking to perfect some things, tweak some things here and there, and that's the one thing I think we do remarkably well is after the draft, after the signing period, we sit back and say, okay, what are some areas we could have maybe improved upon? What can we do better? And then we try to implement that moving forward. But yeah, to answer your question, pretty happy as of right now with how things have turned out. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.